Hello, guys. Plane crash is one of the scariest disasters in the world, but do you know what happens to a pilot when a plane starts to crash? In this video, I am going to tell you about the last words of pilots just a few seconds before a plane crash, so let's begin. On October 31, 1999, Egypt Air Flight 990, a Boeing 767, was en route from Los Angeles, USA to Cairo, Egypt. There were 217 people on board, including 203 passengers and 14 crew members. Among them were several Egyptian military officials and dignitaries. The flight took off smoothly from New York, and everything appeared normal. The pilots were engaging in casual conversation, and there were no indications of technical difficulties. The captain recited in the name of Allah before taking off, a common practice among Muslim pilots. However, as the aircraft was cruising at 33,000 feet over the Atlantic Ocean, something unusual happened. The autopilot suddenly disengaged, and the aircraft pitched downward into a steep dive. The engines were still functioning at first, but then, suddenly, they shut down. The co-pilot, in a panic, asked the captain, "What is happening? Have you turned off the engines?" The captain repeatedly said, "I have faith in God," as he tried to take control of the aircraft. The flight crew desperately attempted to regain altitude, but the plane continued to descend at a dangerously rapid rate. The flight data recorder later revealed that the aircraft briefly recovered, but just when it seemed like the pilots had regained control, it plummeted again into the ocean at nearly 500 miles per hour. At 1:50 a.m., a loud explosion was heard on the cockpit voice recorder, followed by complete silence. The plane crashed into the Atlantic Ocean about 60 miles south of Nantucket Island, Massachusetts. On February 21, 1970, Swiss Air Flight 330, a Conair CV990, was on its way from Zurich, Switzerland to Tel Aviv, Israel, with a stopover in Geneva. There were 38 passengers and 9 crew members on board. Shortly after takeoff, at an altitude of 14,000 feet, a bomb planted inside the cargo compartment exploded. The explosion ignited a fire in the rear cargo hold, which quickly spread throughout the plane. Passengers started screaming in panic as thick black smoke filled the cabin. The crew tried to control the situation, but the fire was spreading rapidly and the heat was unbearable. The pilots radioed Zurich's control tower, reporting that their aircraft was on fire and losing visibility due to the smoke. The control tower immediately instructed them to return for an emergency landing, but the fire had already disabled critical flight control systems. Realizing that they were losing control, the captain's voice came over the radio, "330 is crashing, goodbye." These heartbreaking last words were spoken in a sobbing tone, and then the transmission was cut off. Just moments later, Swiss Air Flight 330 crashed into a field near Wurenlingen, Switzerland, killing all 47 people on board. Were found. They were seated at the rear of the plane and managed to survive the impact. The crash of Garuda 152 is considered one of Indonesia's deadliest flight disasters. On September 26, 1997, Garuda Indonesia Flight 152 was scheduled to fly from Jakarta, Java, to Medan, Indonesia. The flight was carrying 234 passengers and crew members, making it one of the busiest flights of the day. Everything was normal as the aircraft cruised towards its destination, with passengers and crew going about their usual activities, unaware of the tragedy that was about to unfold. As the plane approached Polonia International Airport in Medan, the weather conditions were deteriorating. Indonesia was experiencing one of its worst forest fires at the time, which had resulted in thick haze covering large parts of Sumatra. This smoke significantly reduced visibility, making it difficult for pilots to rely on visual references during landing. When the plane was just 48 kilometers away from the airport, the pilot contacted the control tower for landing instructions. The air traffic controller, struggling with poor radio reception and visibility issues, the pilots misunderstood the instructions and turned right instead of left. This wrong turn proved fatal. Instead of aligning with the airport's approach path, the aircraft was now headed directly towards a mountainous region covered in thick vegetation. Due to the dense haze, the pilots could not visually confirm their position. and it was only when the plane got dangerously close to the terrain that they realized they were flying into a disaster. However, at this point, the aircraft was already too close to the forested hills south of Medan. The crew's panic was evident, and the pilot's last recorded words were, "No, no," repeated 3 times, followed by a desperate cry for help of God as the aircraft crashed into the mountainside at full speed. The impact was catastrophic. The aircraft disintegrated upon collision, and all 234 people on board perished instantly. This tragedy remains the deadliest aviation accident in Indonesian history. On May 22, 2020, Pakistan International Airlines Flight 8303 was scheduled to fly from Lahore to Karachi, a short but crucial domestic route. The aircraft for this flight was an Airbus A320, a modern and reliable aircraft equipped with advanced safety features. The flight had 91 passengers in the landing sequence. The captain realized that there was no way to avoid a crash. He sent out a distress call, repeating "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday" 3 times, the universal emergency signal for pilots. Seconds later, the plane crashed into a crowded neighborhood in Karachi, causing massive destruction. The impact destroyed multiple homes, leading to casualties on the ground as well. The aircraft was completely engulfed in flames, and 97 out of 99 people on board were killed instantly. Astonishingly, 2 passengers miraculously survived. Their survival was considered nothing short of a miracle. On August 12, 1985, Japan Airlines Flight 123, a Boeing 747, was scheduled to fly from Tokyo Haneda Airport to Osaka Itami Airport. It was a short domestic flight, but what followed became the deadliest single aircraft accident in aviation history. There were 524 people on board, including passengers and crew. The aircraft took off at 6:12 p.m., and everything was normal for the first 12 minutes. Suddenly, a loud explosion was heard from the rear of the plane. The entire tail section, including the vertical stabilizer, was blown off, causing the pilots to lose control. The hydraulic systems failed, making it almost impossible to maneuver the plane. The pilots desperately tried to stabilize the aircraft, contacting the control room for emergency landing instructions. However, the lack of control meant they could not properly descend toward a runway. The aircraft continued to descend uncontrollably, and within minutes, a mountain appeared directly in their path. The pilots realized they were doomed. The last words from the captain was chilling. "The plane is going to be destroyed. Everything is over." At 6:56 p.m., Flight 123 crashed into Mount Osutaka, killing 520 out of the 524 people on board. Miraculously, 4 survivors. If you enjoyed this, there's a lot more where that came from. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. And if this video added value, show some love by hitting like. It really helps. See you in the next one.